Rach Potter, thank you for joining me just to have this conversation. You are absolutely one of the best in all of real estate. I truly
I'm not
believe
sure
that.
about that, but thank you.
I know things, and I just have mad respect for you as a human, as a mom, as a leader, and as a real estate agent. So this will be a fun conversation.
Okay. And likewise, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So let's start at the beginning for people who
Okay.
may not know you or know your story. How'd you get into real estate? And really, more importantly, why? Why enter this crazy world?
Great question. I did not grow up with a biochemistry degree thinking I was going to end up a realtor. So I was in a corporate job for about 15 years, and the owners of the company just kind of decided to blow up everything. And so I had to decide pretty quickly what I wanted to be when I grew up at like 36, 37 years old, which is a special way to, especially after you've been somewhere for 15 years.
Yeah.
And so what I did was I was approached by an agent who thought that I might be good at this. And so here I am 6, 7 years later, and started at DPR at Dallas Preston Road with Keller Williams. KW is my one and only home. And I have done the homework. I'm not going anywhere. I'm a lifer. So that's kind of how I got kind of forced into real estate, but boy, howdy. My only regret is I didn't do it sooner, quite frankly. So,
well, you were successful really from the beginning. And looking back your first year in real estate, what would you have done differently? If you had it, what did you learn? Like you think back and say, I would do this differently.
I mean, honestly, I was fortunate enough to win Rookie of the Year. That was kind of cool. I think I probably would have paid a little bit more attention to some of the technology or like the CRM and things, but you're so busy that first year just kind of learning all the basics. I'm not sure if I would have been able to do that, but maybe I would have.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm old, Teresa. I don't know how to use technology.
So old.
I do now, actually.
Same age. So thanks for that.
Sure.
Okay. So you had Rookie of the Year, first year in the business. You now run a millionaire real estate agent team. You guys are killing it. You have an amazing admin support, amazing sales team. Tell us a little bit about your team, your numbers, your volume. What have you guys?
Sure.
This is really, you started in what year?
My first full year in real estate was 2016.
Yeah. So we're
6, 7 years in, I guess. Something like
started.
That. Yeah.
Okay.
So last year for 2022, we had 11 full-time agents. I'm still very much in production. I think that makes me a better team leader, and I'm in the trenches, and I really actually enjoy production a lot. Most days. I mean, and that you're not doing it right if you
that's all the jobs of the world. Yeah.
Yes. Last year we ended about a little over 92 million as a team. 2.2 million in GCI. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I think it was like 180 something units. This year we've hit our goals for January, February, March. We're going to be pretty darn close. We're up probably around 10 to 12% from last year. So I feel pretty good that we're hearing a lot of people down in their businesses. We're actually taking market share. I'm really excited for our team. We hardly ever, I don't know in our history of our team, we ever met our January and February goals, and we did this year. So felt really good.
And that was absolutely by no accident, because the market certainly wasn't up. Naturally, there would be no reason why you would surpass the January and February of 2022. And, as I look back into 2022, right? We started as a market center, as Keller Williams, talking about a shift before anybody felt a shift. And I think you were really one of the leaders in that conversation, and you jumped on that bandwagon, if you will, of preparing for a shift before you felt the shift. Sure. So talk a little bit about that mentality, because without a doubt, your increase this year was intentional, purposeful, and fought for.
Yeah, for sure. So we noticed, Gary and every training you went to in the last, let's call it 12 to 18 months, said it was coming, it's coming, it's coming. And I don't think we really felt it come full force until maybe like mid-May last year, early June. We do a lot of open houses on our team. And so we noticed our traffic slowed way down, like literally from one weekend to the next. And I'm sure a lot of agents who've been in the business a long time, they can probably pinpoint that exact weekend or right within a week or two of that date. It was like Mother's Day kind of weekend. And so we track our numbers at a high level as far as number of contacts per day. And so what we did was I went back and took a look at mine. Personally, I knew before the shift that I could talk to about 13 people and set some sort of appointment. And that number started inching up as we rounded into the late summer and early fall. So I knew if I was struggling, I do lead gen at a really high level. I talked to a lot of people, that agents on my team and agents around us in the market center were going to start seeing that. So we immediately, probably mid-June, kind of retooled everyone's numbers for in terms of like, how many contacts we needed, and that those things weren't going to get you the amount of business that you wanted in terms of closing. So we recalibrated everything. And I don't know where I heard it, but it was basically like, if you're doing something like an open house for 2 hours, just go ahead and do it for 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You're already there. So we doubled down there as far as just like basic lead gen, whether it's, talking to your sphere or open house or, agents do expired cancels. You just had to have more conversations. But I'm really fortunate that my operational team recognized it right along with us. And so we really started using command and getting people on drip campaigns and using BombBomb and really leaning on technology to, you can't talk to your whole sphere in a week or two, right?
Yeah. Use tech to carry the load, essentially.
Yeah, it was like a sprinkle in between the conversations or the checks or the, text messaging and all that sort of thing. I did tell my team, I remember very clearly saying, listen, text is great, but it's not going to get the job done. Now, that might just be my sphere, younger people that they may be like,
us elderly ones.
Yeah. But for me, just picking up the phone and having a conversation, we really dialed in on that. So yeah, I just pretended like we were all going to starve to death by the end of August.
Well, and I think, I mean, so you said 13-1 was your conversion rate pre-May, which is a really great, 13 contacts to an appointment, is incredible.
Right.
And I would bet that is above average because of your skill set.
Sure.
Tell me what that appointment conversion went to.
Mid-30s.
Yeah, I remember you saying that when you spoke on one of our huddles, and that is drastic. And
painful.
And it's painful, and everybody's conversion went to that. I think if you don't know your numbers, you just don't realize what that really looks like. So
yeah, for sure.
Okay. So you guys shifted quickly. You acted like the world was going to end.
That's pretty much where I live, Teresa. So
I know.
My team is like, she's been talking about this shift for 7 years. I'm like, well, because that's how I live. Like, I just push. That's just who I am.
Yeah.
But at least we were in shape, if you will.
Well, absolutely. And
we had good cardio.
You conditioned yourself with expectations, right? And your team with expectations of what it's going to take.
Exactly.
To make money and to get results and all of that. And you told me you guys really focused and heavy on listings, and you went all in on all things listings. Let's talk about how you're winning there, because that's definitely a reason your business is up this year in a down market. So what does that look like?
Yeah. So I've always enjoyed the listing side of the business, even as a newer agent. And I know that the listing side of the business for many people is scary. Or maybe intimidating is a better word. I don't know. So I've always been heavy listing focused. You can do 10 listings to 2 buyers, right? They're just less time consuming. And if you do them right, you should pull other deals off of those. So we're really intentional we're big on open houses. A lot of times, neighbors come in. Well, those neighbors are coming in because they probably are maybe on the fence about selling or thinking about it within the year. So when you do, great open houses, you have all the things there and you are knowledgeable about the neighborhood, you're on an interview, right? Anybody walking through that door is either a potential buyer, seller, or both, which really, those are our favorite, right? The list buy. And so we just focused heavy. It was like, get into your sphere, get into conversation. Anybody that's been in their house really more than 2 years, heck, some neighborhoods a year, you have 50 at least $1,000 of new equity in your home. And what does that do for you? So we were just really intentional about the types of conversation we were having. And sometimes people get snagged. Well, I know my friend just moved. Why am I calling him or her and talking about listing their home? Like, no, you're just talking about the market.
Right.
Right. So then that way, when they're approached at the water cooler or church or their flag football team, and someone's like, I don't know how much my house is worth. You know who you should call? This little chickadee or, whoever. And so we just got intentional about, we're having those types of conversations about real estate, like in every facet of our life, not just like your timed out, time blocked lead gen time at barbecues, at kids sports, church, luncheons, whatever you're going to, and really just teaching the team and having dialogue around that worked for you. That's a good line, or that's good conversation, or that. And I think just planting those seeds the last 6 months, I think at our last team meeting, we had like almost a page of coming soons. And we haven't had that really since probably this time last year. And it wasn't just like one or two agents having the bulk. Everybody had a sprinkle of one or two each. And so that felt really good. And I'm always harping on listings because I think it makes you a better buyer agent too, if you know how to do a listing well.
I totally agree with that. I want to back up a little bit on open houses. Sure. Because I love your mentality of open houses being the appointment as a listing agent. And it's not for just buyer leads. I think a lot of agents really view open houses as buyer lead generation. So I love the mentality of it being seller lead gen. So sure. I would love to know, what are the top 2 or 3 do's or don't do's to make it a amazing open house lead generation opportunity? Because I do, they're absolutely not all created equal. Yeah. What are the top 3 things? And then share a little bit. You said you were doing open houses for longer. What is the standard on your listings of how you time and schedule those open houses?
Yeah. So I'll start with the first piece, which just kind of how we prep for our listing or for our open houses is allowing for, you got to know the comps. You need to know what just sold. You need to know what's active. And even if that's a printout because you don't have it memorized, like maybe it's not your farm or the area you're super familiar with, you're doing an open house kind of out of your comfort zone. You really need to spend a half hour to an hour, really prepping for the open house. I mean, you wouldn't just walk into a corporate interview, not at least looking up the company's website or looking up the person you're interviewing with. I would hope not. You're picking out your suit the next day, or, the day before, you're, trimming your nail, you're prepping. And then that's really how you should treat your open house. You don't arrive 2 minutes before it's supposed to start. You need to be there 15 or 20 minutes ahead of time. And did you put out enough signs? And do you have your comps and the seller's disclosure and all the things? Even if it's not your listing, because I know lots of agents hold open other agents' listings, you kind of need to be as well-versed as if you are the listing agent, because buyers don't understand, or people coming into open houses don't understand that you're not the listing agent, right? So it's really about the prep work on the front end. If you're fortunate enough to be a farmer like I am, I don't really have to do the prep work anymore. I know what a remodeled house should go for. I know what this lot size should go for, all these things. I know a little bit about the schools. So the more you can arm yourself with that data, so that you're prepared if and when, and it's not really if, it's when that interview, I guess starts, if you will, with the person coming through the open house, you're ready and you look knowledgeable and you look professional and you showed up on time. So that's super helpful. What was the second part of your question?
What is your standard on your listings?
Right.
How often and how long you're doing open
house? So if it's the right neighborhood and you can get good kind of traffic flow, we like to do a Friday night, like a 4 to 6. Now you got to be smart about it. If you have an open house that's, in a very congested area at Friday at 5 o'clock, don't do it. Right. I mean, because then the buyer's gonna be like, oh, this is terrible. Look at all this traffic. So you kind of have to use your best, use your brain a little bit. If our sellers will allow for longer open houses on Saturdays and Sundays, sometimes that's dictated by the seller. Like either they don't want to have them or they're like 2 hours seems plenty. And how we approach that is, listen, the more people we can drive into your house, the more people who look at it, the more people look at it online when you list an open house, as you know. And that just drives all the traffic. So if you can really set the expectation with the seller that, yeah, you're right, we're probably not going to sell your house at an open house. Okay. The numbers don't support that theory. So don't tell them that. But although we actually have a pretty high level of that on the really great listings anyway. But I think that if you can explain to the seller, it just goes beyond just the foot traffic walking in, but it's online traffic, and it's, maybe somebody saw the house on on Friday afternoon with a private showing, and then they see you're having 2 open houses. That might elicit this visceral reaction for that buyer to make an offer sooner than they were expecting, right? So there's just all these little nuances. So I don't know that we have a set standard, but if we can, we always push the seller to at least do 1 big open house, whether that's Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. But we do have some standards around how many signs, your expectation on when you show up, what your prep work was like, do you have the seller's disclosure, things like that. So
I love that. And I think when you view it as an interview, all of that just absolutely makes sense. Okay. So this is absolutely the tale of 2 listings. This market is, right? We have listings going with multiple offers over list price, and we have ones taking price reductions and sitting a tad longer. And it's probably even more nuanced than that. It's probably the market of 7 different markets happening simultaneously. So pricing and staging of our listings being so crucial right now. It's absolutely a skills-based market.
Sure.
We're not just sticking signs in the yard. So chat a little bit just on your philosophy on pricing. Are you having those conversations, and what does that look like?
Yeah, for sure. So I think the overpriced listing is the kiss of death, just really honestly. And if you can't, everything about our market, both buyer and seller right now, is about expectation setting with either buyer or seller. And so, yes, Mr. Seller, I know the house that was identical to yours sold 50 grand more in March of 2022 than what we're talking about listing it for right now. But here's why: interest rates were at 2 3/4 or 3 1/4. We're not there anymore. You also got to really understand what their motivation is. Where are they going and why? And how quickly do they need to be there? So we are really taking the data from the last 90 days, which is a little bit sad. You just can't use the data from last spring. Sorry, Mr. Seller. And you need to be able to articulate why, the rates mainly, and then just kind of buyer fatigue, and they've just kind of all pulled out of the market, right, for several months. But I would have a serious conversation with your seller, and I don't remember who explained this to me at some point during Bold or somewhere about the pricing snowball, right? Yep. And I literally get out a sheet of paper and I'm like, listen, if you start here, but we should be here, in order for us to catch those buyers that would have shown up here, we got to go below that. And that is a really, that scares the seller, and I mean, I don't want to say scare. I don't want to, well, I kind of do bully some people, but that's beside the point. If we start here,
let's go with that.
I mean, it is, right? Yes. And if you're not comfortable having tough conversations with buyers and sellers, then you need to practice not on the buyer and seller. Get a buddy, get a mentor, get a coach, whatever that looks like for you, because you do not want to practice these conversations at your appointment. Like, that's not going to go well for you. So it's all about expectation. And, if they don't let you list it at the price you feel like is the accurate price for whatever reason, and I've had those sellers, I'm not immune to any of this, by the way. I think you've got to have a strategy about when you're dropping. I know some people bake that right into their listing docs. I don't do that, but I am a little bit more nimble and flexible with my buyers and sellers. And I think that's probably based on the sphere that I run in. They're business people, they're C-level executives, and they're not going to put anything like that in writing. They're already freaking out about signing listing documents.
Yeah.
Right. So I just have a different kind of client base, but I think I do have that conversation. Like if we start here and pretty much if you're not under contract in a week, you're too high.
Right.
At least right now. I don't know when people are watching this, but like in March of 2023, if you're not under contract in 4 or 5 days, you're probably too high. And then staging is still everything. And I don't mean renting furniture. I mean, if you've got a pink wall in your house, probably need to get that painted. You need to clean up all your kids' stuff, and all the things. So staging or editing, as we call it, is super important. So even if you think the house is going to sell the opening weekend, you're going to make your seller more money if you do it right on the front end.
100%.
Right.
Well, you're just such a great example of operating in the market you're going into as opposed to the market that you're in.
Totally agree.
Being skills based, of leading your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Rach, thank you for sharing with us today.
Yeah.
Everybody will take away some great nuggets for their business. It's always
Hopefully.
a pleasure. Absolutely. So go have a great day, my friend, and see you soon.
All right. Thanks, hon.
Thanks.